Yo, what is going on, my fellow weebs? Chrono here, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to do something we haven't done in a long time, and honestly, I think I want to start doing more often, kind of in a regular sort of thing. That way people kind of have a better idea of where they want to be looking. We're going to do essentially a gear progression guide. Let you guys know where you should be starting and how you can get yourself towards the end game of NGS. But before doing that, if you're new here, as always, I am Chrono. I primarily cover PSO2 content. Would much appreciate a subscribe as we're going towards that 10K mark, hopefully, by the end of this year. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this. All right, so here we are over on the PSO2NGS wiki. I actually have two open here, and it's up to you kind of where you go about these processes. I personally prefer the NGS wiki. However, they aren't updated to the way that I like just yet. This isn't really very palatable to view. You can't see icons and things of that sort. It has all the good information, all the information you need, but sometimes just having text staring in the face is a little bit overwhelming for some people. So the Visiphone has the actual little icons. You have the actual weapons here, still easier to follow, so pretty nice. However, I will mention that the wiki does tend to stay more accurate more consistently. Visiphone did have some issues. I believe the original maker of the Visiphone is no longer working on it. I think this is mostly like people working on and keeping it up to date, or like players and things like that. So I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me on it. But I found more accuracy in the actual NGS wiki, and that's I actually know the people that are working on this, so they're doing some great work. It isn't complete, still got a lot to go. They're still putting a lot of time and effort into this, and it takes a lot of time and effort, so bear with them. They're doing a great job. But I will say that I'm not a fan of this layout personally, and not that it's bad or anything along those lines, but it's just to me it's not really aesthetically pleasing. I will say that this layout only came about on the Visiphone after they came out with this layout over on the NGS wiki, so not really all on them, but it is what it is. We're going to be using the Visiphone layout just so it's easier for you guys to view, and just give you kind of a disclaimer on how this process works out. So what I'm gonna give you guys is kind of like just a outline of what you can move towards and how you can get yourself moving into endgame. To be perfectly honest, the game is pretty linear with the gearing path, at least early on. It's very straightforward. They quite literally hand you everything you need all the way until endgame. Like until you hit like max level, until you start your gearing process, you are handed everything for free. Think of it, if you ever played Final Fantasy 14, think of it as like getting your gear from questing. Granted, you get a lot more from 14 from questing, and then like getting up to your artifact gear when you hit max level for that given expansion. Essentially, you just are all set to go, and you don't need to worry about getting a bunch of extra stuff. Like that's where you start, and you can start building yourself up. This is more or less the same sort of thought process here, and I actually kind of like that they've done that, because they made it substantially easier and a lot less guesswork when it comes to going through the story process. And I will tell you guys that I know this process very well. I've been through it personally myself. I quite literally just went through it on a free-to-play character from scratch. We went from very much nothing. This is a completely fresh account with nothing added on it, all the way to max level, all the way to quote-unquote endgame. We are missing a few things on this character, I believe. I think I have to put in some skill points. Let me actually know one sec. All right, there we go. Fixed. See, you can see it basically has nothing, and this is a brand new character. Like this is, I took him from basically the very beginning of the story all the way to the end, collected everything that you need to collect, and where you should be basically by the time you finish up your story and get all your free gear. And as you guys can see, like I have nothing but our Gen Cool. I have nothing but the S-Vent gear at level plus 90 that they give you, and I have 4119 battle power. Like I mentioned beforehand, this is enough battle power for you to get into basically anything in the game, and you can see this on a completely separate account, not even on my main account. So if there's any question about that, like where you should be as far as battle power is concerned, you can see where you get right before you start your end game grind and start gearing yourself up. But how do you get to this point? So when you first start out the game, they're going to hand you a prim weapon of whatever class you started out as. It doesn't matter. Don't do anything with it. Just equip it and run forward and start doing your storyline stuff. At a certain part of the story, they're going to hand you the extra weapons. Now they give you one of every single class in the game. Every single weapon type in the game that's available, you get one of all of them. It's from doing Leolin's quest. I'm going to scroll up here so you guys can see it. From doing Advice of Leolin 2. So get that taken care of, get that weapon. You're going to use it for a majority of your time frame, at least early on. And then you're going to take that weapon and you're going to use it for any of the quests that they ask you to do, like multi-weaponing and things of that sort. When they ask you to do like a multi-weapon, when they ask you to do like upgrading and things like that, use the extra weapon. You don't need to worry about anything else because it's actually super, super cheap. Now, I don't remember if it happens in the Alea portion or in the Retum portion, But if it happens in the alien portion, use Hextra. If it happens in the Redem portion, they ask you to multi-weapon, use the Hextra anyway, even though you'll have a new weapon by then. Use the Hextra because it's way, way cheaper. Scrolling down, you can skip mostly everything else. And eventually you're gonna hit the Redem region where they're going to hand you an Evil Coat weapon. Now, the Evil Coat weapon will be mostly set up for what you need. It's going to just essentially ask you to do like certain tasks or whatever to upgrade, I believe, the potential on the weapon itself. Upgrade the potential to level 3 and then just leave it. Don't worry about it past that. Like I'm even gonna double check my Evil Coat weapon. I believe I still have it. If we go back to it, yep, there we go. Potential level 3, they give you some stuff on it, just up it to potential level 3 and then leave it alone. I believe they also give it to you at 49, so you put it at 50. But that's pretty much it. Like all these are not really great. I think I might have filled mine with like Might 2 because it was super, super cheap. And I think they ask you to add in an augment or something like that, but that might be it. I don't 100% remember exactly what we did because it's been a while since that time frame. I'm gonna do one of these series once a year, so that way we can keep up with exactly how this process works. But essentially, you don't need to do much of anything to this. Just leave it as it is, unlock its potential, and continue forward. After that, you basically skip everything. Don't worry about anything else that they hand you all the way until you hit level 65. The moment you hit 65, they just put the weapon into your inventory. Now we're going to scroll all the way down to our Gen Cool. It used to be our Gen T, now it's our Gen Cool. They're going to throw in our Gen Cool of all the weapons for your specific class into your inventory as soon as you hit level 65. They're also going to throw a set of units in there. We'll talk about those after this, but you're just going to equip the Argen Cool and roll with it. You don't need to do anything to it. You don't need to change anything on it. If you really want to change anything, you can change the Mastery LC to like a stat 5 because they're very, very cheap. And they've already taught you how to augment gear in the first place. So don't worry about changing anything else. Everything else can stay mostly the same. You don't have to worry too much about it at all. Just slap on your Argen Cool and roll with it. Finish up your story, get your skill points. And by the time you're done with that specifically weapon-wise, you'll be where I am here, which is 4119 battle power as long as you're max level at level 90, which is very, very easy to do. And you have slotted in all of your skill points. It's very important you do that for main and subclass. So what you guys were seeing earlier was I hadn't slotted in my skill points for my subclass yet. Do that for main and subclass. It is very important. I cannot stress this enough. I get a lot of people that are like, I only have 3,900 battle power. I only have 3,800, or I only have 3,700. I'm like, are you level 90? Yes. You haven't gotten all your skill points. That's the only answer. Either that or you're not equipped with the free gear that they hand you. And this is handed to you. It's locked. You cannot mess this up. Like, it is impossible. Check your inventory, check everywhere. Like it's not tradable in the personal shop. You can't use it as a material item. Like they hand it to you. Unless you literally got rid of it, you unlocked it and threw it out, you have it somewhere. So just look around for it. You should be good to go. But that's as far as all you need to worry about when it comes to weapons all the way into endgame. Now we're going to talk about past that point. So once you get started, what should you be looking at? Should you upgrade to this, so on and so forth. So this is kind of like the worst time to do one of these, unfortunately, because we're on the cusp of a new weapon and we're going to talk about the new weapon. But we don't really know what the power of that weapon is just yet. And I would highly recommend waiting until the weapon releases before going off of any information anyone has given you. Because people will tell you up and down that this weapon is this and this weapon is that, and it's going to be better, so on and so forth. But we actually go over the numbers on this channel. We will tell you the actual strength of it. Just hold on. We'll talk about it. So as far as weapons go, realistically speaking, there's only one I even recommend going towards at this point in time. And honestly, you can even wait. At the time of this video going live, next week we have the new weapon releasing. So you don't necessarily have to jump into getting a new weapon right now. You can sit on your Argen Cool and just stack up your resources as much as possible and be ready for that new weapon when it releases. So if you're going to get anything, Eridim. The reason why I recommend Eridim is two primary reasons. One, you need to get one anyway because you want to get the EX augments. These 3 EX augments are extremely powerful. I actually go over in a video all the EX augments and the combinations I recommend and what would be useful and where and so on and so forth. So just check the video description. I'll try to remember to leave that linked. You should be fine there. So Eridim, definitely useful. And then outside of that, technically the strongest weapon is the Wing Guard. I personally believe this weapon's on life support, to be perfectly honest. We've had this weapon for a very long time. We've been at 11 star for quite some time, and we're at the cusp of replacing that weapon with a new 11 star. So taking a look at our Nameless City update, if you scroll on down, we have the new 11 star Exilio weapons. Now we don't know how strong these are going to be, but the biggest part of this is they can be enhanced further in a later update. So in October, and they've talked about when this is going to be coming out, these weapons can be enhanced further, and likely when they're enhanced, they will be stronger than the other weapon that we have. Let me make sure. Than our current Wing Guards, right? It isn't guaranteed that these will be stronger than our Wingars to begin with, but likely once they upgrade, they will. We don't know if they're going to upgrade to 12-star. We don't know if they're going to upgrade to the very powerful 11-star. We don't know how they're going to upgrade or what it's going to be. Maybe they'll even be on par with our Wingard. I hope that's not the case. That would be kind of disappointing, to be perfectly honest. I'm ready to move on to another weapon. As much as it would be expensive to get myself set up on another weapon setup, I am ready to move on to a new weapon because we've had these weapons for a very, very, very long time. They've basically outstayed their welcome at this point. So I would not recommend going into a Wingard, but it is worth mentioning it is the strongest weapon we have access to at this time, at the time of this video going live. And that's pretty much it. The other notable mentions in this is really only one. Two I would even mention are these 2 6-stars right here. This weapon here is useful for putting EX augments on it, for fighting a huge group of enemies, basically for farming things like deck space. You can get specific EX augments that'll give you back PP on enemy death, and of course defensive options, and you know, just extra damage in general. And this weapon is kind of optimized for deck space's level of enemies to where you can push out the most amount of damage, along with its potential where it gets an extra 8% damage against enemies other than bosses, so regular enemies. So this is a very, very powerful weapon. There's an issue with damage caps in PSO2, and the way this works out, because of this potential, this weapon ends up being stronger than some of our best choices on those enemies specifically. So if you are someone who will be farming in deck space, and I want to make this very clear because this is something that came up in my video talking about like selling your soul to deck space or farming deck space and things like that. Everyone can farm deck space. Anyone can farm deck space. You do not need to have the optimal setup to farm deck space. Getting the optimal setup will make you farm deck space better. You will have a better time. You will make more money. However, we're not gatekeeping deck space. This is not a situation where it's gate kept. You do not need to have, like, you can, I quite literally go on to ship 3 alongside of my wife's skulls. I take my Argent Cool, my full set, and I go with her and I farm deck space with her and make roughly 1.5 to 2 mil an hour over at deck space. If I'm really pushing hard, if I have like no buffs or anything like that, I'll get like 1.4-ish mil or something like that. But like on a good day with buffs and things of that sort, I'll make around, you know, 1.5, 1.7, maybe 2 mil if we get super lucky. So you do not need to have optimal setups overall to be able to farm deck space. You can farm with random people. We do it all the time. I've farmed with random people on my stream. I've taken 3 people for my alliance, and we just farm with random people online. Like, we didn't go into a specific room or anything like that. It's just people we found and farm with them. It is totally fine. You do not need to be fully optimal. There are certain classes, there are certain combinations, and there are certain weapons that are going to be more optimal, and they are going to do better. There are certain strategies that are more optimal as well. However, you can farm deck space. This is just an option to make it more optimal. Hopefully that that is enough information to say, because again, this came up in the comments and it was very frustrating because it came off for a lot of people as like, you can't do this without this, and that's not the case at all. Not in the slightest. Please go make your money. Make your money for fashion, make your money for gear, whatever you decide to do, but go make your money. It's helpful. And then the codec. The codec is only really useful for players who are pushing high-end endgame content. This is mostly useful for situations where you're like soloing a boss and there's a mechanic where he's going to do a huge devastating attack, and your goal is to survive the damage of that attack. You know you're not going to be able to deal with the mechanic solo, so you switch over to this codec. You have access to basically defensive stat and damage resistance because of this potential, and then you of course can stack up EX augments and things like that to make it so you're even tankier. And then of course you can also stack up stuff to make it so you're building your PB even faster and things like that. So that's mostly what that's for, and that's pretty much it. There aren't really any other niches that are available. I'm trying to think of anything else that's actually useful. Revita, I guess, if I can find it. Let me see, where is it at? There's some elemental weapons, like, yeah, Revita is an elemental weapon. Dark Element is used for like one of the dual quests. Honestly, I just made all my dual quest weapons freaking Eridims because we had an event where we could upgrade all of them, and it was just useful to do at that time. So it's up to you at the end of the day, but that's pretty much it when it comes to weapons. And units is next, and it's even easier. So units, mostly the same thought process. They give you a prim, use the prim. Eventually they give you Renessias, I believe at level what, 39? Let me see what they are. Yeah, 39. They give you Renessias at 39. You don't have to do anything with them. They don't really have much of anything on them. Just leave them exactly as is and use them. Unless they're asking you to upgrade something, just go ahead and use them as they are and keep moving forward. Eventually you're going to get to, I think it's these set, the Qualde and the, yeah, let me double check. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah, here we go. You get the Qualday, the Vialto, and the Cali armor. I believe they have you push this up to 50 at one point in time. I might have thrown extra stuff on here to push it up, but you don't really have to worry about that. They give you the weapon, the units, just use them exactly as they are. You don't have to worry about getting extra stuff or upgrading them or adding things to them. You'll be perfectly fine. Especially if you're doing this during the events they've been doing right now. You're likely going to get that ticket that'll push you, once you hit level 20, it'll push you up to level 87 if you use it. You definitely do not need to worry about any of these things, because then you're going to immediately get your level 65 weapon and armor and just equip that and you're good to go. But in case you're saving that ticket, maybe to level another class, something along those lines, you're going through this organically, just equip this and you're good to go. Don't worry about anything like that. You don't have to worry about upgrading at all. Scroll on down, scroll on down, scroll on down, skip all this. Bam, 65. When you hit 65, you get a level 90 variant of this, which is going to have all the augments on it already, and then you're good to go. Just equip it and you're all set. Don't need to worry about upgrading. Don't need to worry about leveling it up. Don't need to worry about any of those things. Now I'm going to tell you the one exception to the rule, because there is an exception to the rule when it comes to the weapon as well as the units. I wanted to wait till after we went through both of these, because this is kind of where this slots in. Now, if you're playing during an event, usually during events, they hand out free gear. I say free, but it's via the exchange shop, and it's via the points exchange, and they're very easy to get enough points for, so it might as well be free. Like, doing a set of dailies is enough to usually get all you need. Usually 3 units and a weapon. If there's an event going on, take the freebie, because it's usually plus 90. It's all set up with augments, and the weapon is better than the Argenco. Our most recent one was, where is it? Here, this weapon here. So our most recent one was this weapon here. You are going to crush your Argenco for a few different reasons. One, the Argenco doesn't have the ability, it doesn't have the base 5% crit every other weapon has, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but crit's pretty powerful in this game. So not having that extra base 5% crit is pretty detrimental. As soon as, especially when you start rolling your add-on skills, when you get to that point, I have a video talking about add-on skills, link in the video description. But when you get to that point, not having that base 5% crit does suck. Also, if it's during an event, during these events, they're going to have event enemies, and you're going to do more damage to those event enemies because of this augment that's going to be on the event weapon. So it is definitely worth using this, especially during those event times. Just slap it on. It's already plus 90. It's already fully augmented when you get it. At worst, I think it has Mastery LC on it or something like that. Maybe swap that out and you're going to be good to go. But that's pretty much it. You're going to want to use that. And then, of course, from the units perspective, they usually give you like the better unit setup. I think they gave Inea armor this time around, and it was fully augmented, so definitely worth picking up, definitely worth using over your S-Fent. S-Fent's not bad. FSTant, excuse me, is not bad, but this is going to be better, and it's free. Just equip it, use what you get from the event, and you're good to go. Now, and then of course all the stuff we talked about weapon, do that afterwards, depending upon how far you're going. Now, units. What should you be looking at when it comes to units? Well, nothing else but Ectasis, and I'm gonna tell you why. This is also going to upgrade in October. Granted, it doesn't have HP and PP on it right now. It doesn't have damage resistance. So some people are like, oh, well, you know, it's not gonna be better than this or whatever right now. But if you have no gear, no armor, anything along those lines, and you just are using the freebie gear that they hand you, just use Ectasis armor. Get it to level 81. You don't have to worry about getting it all the way to plus 90. Get it to 81. I know it's expensive. Get it to 81. You get all of your augment slots. Slap in all the LC augments, all the freebie augments, the stat 5s, the doable 5s to get yourself as much potency and potency floor as you can get, and just take the freebie for now. This is going to upgrade in October. It's your best bang for your buck. They're extraordinarily cheap right now. I have like 100 of them that I'm gonna slam together to get my fix up higher. Just go ahead and take the freebie for the moment being. It's very useful. And that's basically it. That's all you really need to worry about when it comes to your gearing process. You don't need to like, I mean, some people would argue that, hey, you know, some people are going to be selling their other armors so you can purchase those instead off the market. If you happen to find like a really good deal on them, you could do that maybe, but a lot of people aren't going to be selling their gear because they're going to be augment transferring it over to the new gear. And you're asking yourself, what's augment transfer? Say it with me. There's a video on the channel for it. Check it out. I may be leaving it in the video description below. But that's all you really need to worry about when it comes to your gearing process. Get yourself set up, get yourself, you know, either your freebie armor, your freebie weapon, get your event weapon, or even push towards your Aerodym. Honestly, man, these Aerodyms are really good. And I didn't even mention this when it came to the Aerodym. I talked about, you know, you need to get the EX augment, so I apologize for missing this. But you can also augment transfer off the Aerodym for free. It doesn't cost an augment transfer pass. And you're like, what's augment transfer? The short version is you can move all of your augments from one weapon to the next without having to re-augment them. So when you have expensive augments like we use a lot of times, you don't have to worry about re-augmenting all of your armor. But basically, you can essentially set yourself up on this Aerodin weapon for free. You don't have to worry about re-augmenting a new weapon when it comes out. You can transfer off of Aerodin completely for free, and it doesn't cost you a pass or anything along those lines. Again, if you're curious about how that process works, check our video description. We'll have a link to the EX augment system there. Now, if you saw all this and you're like, dude, I don't even know what to augment on my gear, say it with me. Video description. We have a video about this, balling on a budget. We'll go ahead and include that in the video description as well. You can check that out. Go ahead and get yourself set up, all good to go. And if all this seems super overwhelming to you and you're like, man, I'm not going to go that hard into my gearing process, I don't really care that much about all of this, you know, some things are too expensive, so on and so forth, you decide your gear progression. If you're like, I'm going to go to the freebie gear and then I'm done because all I care about is doing like, you know, all I care about is doing creative space or line strike or whatever, then yeah, by all means, dude, don't worry about pushing past this. Just chill with your Argent Cool or whatever, and you're good to go. If you're like, all I'm going to do is farm deck space to make money to buy my fashion, then yeah, okay. I mean, I'd argue if that's what your goal is, then I would definitely make one of these 6 stars because it's going to be better for you to farm your money with, and then at least make some decent armor. That way you can make more money faster, but it's up to you at the end of the day. You decide your own progression path. This is not to tell you that you have to do anything individual or anything specifically. It's to give you information. That way you can make a more informed decision on how you can play in GS and have the best time. I think that's about it. I rambled on long enough. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. So at the end of these videos, we always do like kind of a question for the video itself. And today's question is going to be, in anime, there's always an archetype, a character archetype that kind of resonates with you. What is that character archetype for you? What character archetype resonates for you? I'm super boring. I'm a big fan of the OPMC. That's a fucking idiot. that's an absolute moron. I know they exist all over the place and they're probably over troped to insanity, but they're just comic relief for me. I just find them super, super funny. Recently, there's been a very vast resurgence in characters that are strong dumb, I guess, where they don't realize how powerful they are. Like what is it? I've been watching I Parry Everything. I Parry Anything. I can't remember what it's called specifically, but been watching that, and it's just a character who is completely oblivious of how powerful he actually is because all of his skills are very, very, very low tier. But he is very powerful with all of those low tier skills. So anyway, let me know what you guys, what that character is or archetype is for you. I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. I've actually been really enjoying reading those in the comments, and it's helped a lot for keeping the mental there while we're making YouTube videos. So I very much appreciate those of you guys who've been participating. Either way, like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to keep up with more. Thanks again to the channel members. You guys are fantastic. I'm going to be working on some bonuses for you guys. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I will definitely be working on some stuff for the channel members. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Take care, my friends. Peace out.